Ready, go. Give it like 3 seconds.
Welcome back. We are here with Unlocked. We finally came up with a name, which is exciting.
Sounds like a good name.
And we're also here with our first guest, a local real estate investor who has been investing here since 2014 and has rapidly grown here in the Erie market, all while managing a full-time job, 5 kids, and a wife, and is co-owner at Stonehouse Management Company. Please join us in welcoming Justin Corritore.
JC.
Thanks,
Good to see you, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me.
Haven't seen you since the pandemic. Literally.
Here we are, man. I'm honored to be the first guest, so thanks.
It's good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to be with you guys. I'm really impressed with what you guys have been doing, and like I was saying before, your ads, Dom, are great, and what you're marketing and your advertising is fantastic.
You're seeing them.
And your steak cookouts are second to none.
You got to have more of those. Those were real fun.
We're making the money back right now. So.
Attaboy. Attaboy. It's an ROI.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So why don't we get started with just a little bit of your background and you know how you kind of came to be here in Erie and what led up to it. You know, you obviously have a crazy story. I think we all, you know, have kind of heard you speak and are very fascinated to hear more. So if you want to do just a quick background.
Yeah, so started in 2014 in my investing career, but I was born and raised in Erie, and have a wife, 5 kids, work full time, and you know, my wife and I, we got pregnant pretty much right out of high school and moved to Long Island for a couple years to be with her mom. Her mom was a saint, and housed us while we were trying to figure out how to adult and how to be parents, and stayed there for about 2 years. Moved down to Tennessee and lived there for a couple years. My wife finished her college degree and went to Philadelphia, where her grandparents were for a couple years, and then came back here to Erie before our daughter was in kindergarten. So that was our ultimate plan when we were young. That's pretty much the only thing that we had to focus on, was to get to Erie at some point before our daughter was in kindergarten. So we lived in all those high-cost living areas. It was nice to come back to Erie.
I know.
And at least have a shot at figuring this out. So
What was that, like 5 years and then you're back in Erie?
no, I mean, that was it was probably 7 years or so. Yeah, it was just about 2 years every place. So came back here, started working, worked 2 jobs, you know, just kind of entered the grind. And my wife was working at the time and ended up getting married, had a couple more kids. We moved places here. We were in the school district that we liked, and finally found our forever home about 10 years ago. And kind of was like, well, this is a little bit more expensive than I thought, but worked a little bit harder.
It's probably cheaper than wherever you were before.
It was, but kind of realized too that, like, at some point you start realizing that all the stuff you read and all the stuff that you learn, it's like, okay, I have to start implementing this somehow. I have no idea how I'm going to do it, but you have to have an open mind, and you have to kind of put your heart out there, and opportunity and preparedness. Right?
You talk about stuff you read. Are you referring to Rich Dad Poor Dad? Or what are you talking about
Right.
specifically?
All those self-help books, any of those. So Rich Dad Poor Dad was one of the turning points in my self-education, self-help education. But then I dove really into a lot of, like, the Millionaire's Mind. That was a big one.
It's a good book.
Yep, all those books. Some of the old real estate books. Geez, I can't even think of them off the top of my head. But
Yeah.
just all those nugget books that you read, and you just kind of like grocery store. You shelf it,
Yeah.
until the opportunity comes where you can just kind of implement it. And that happened back in 2014. I have kind of a unique opportunity that the janitor at my dad's work.
Yeah, I remember you said you had a janitor that you
Yep.
picked the brain of him because he had some rental property.
Exactly. So right out of Vietnam, he came back, worked for Penelec, and his boss owned a cleaning company. He ended up getting fired from Penelec, but he bought his boss's cleaning company and just slowly started accumulating single-family home rentals. That's all he has is single-family home rentals. And been doing it for 30, 40 years. So by the time I come along about 5 years ago, I'm always asking Rich for, landlord war stories, the broken toilets and the evicted tenants and all that stuff. So he's telling me all these things. Well, long story short, our friends of ours buy a house, and my wife pulls me over. She goes, "Hey, let's see what our friends bought." So jumped on Zillow, zoomed out, and I didn't even really care what the heck they bought, but I noticed about 3 blocks away a house that was like a quarter of the price on Zillow, and I said, "Wow, wait a minute, what is that? That's an opportunity." So I called Rich the next morning. He goes, "Hey, I'm right up the street. Want me to knock on the door?" Like, "Yeah, sure, all right." So he went and knocked on the door. Nobody was there. We booked an appointment that same day to walk through. So we walk through, and
Rich is a friend of yours
Rich
in
is
this?
my mentor. Yep. So
Okay.
it was on Washington. So
He's the janitor.
He's the janitor.
Got it.
So we walk in, and it's this old, dilapidated farmhouse. And I knew that I was like, oh, dude, I can't do this. This is too much. So, and keep in mind that we had just had our youngest daughter at the time in July. So this is right around November time this is happening. So he pulls me aside. He goes, hey, if I close on this, I'll give you a couple grand at closing, all right? I said, that's cool with me. So I go home, and I'm like, that was the easiest $2,000 I had ever made in my entire life.
I love it. I love it.
It's that simple,
Yeah.
right? So all that stuff, all that knowledge that you shelf kind of culminates into one opportunity, and you're like, I get it now. Now I have something to implement all this for, and I can sink my teeth into it. So next day, I said, hey, Rich, that was fantastic. I'm going to start looking for another one. He goes, yeah, go ahead. So within a couple days, I found my first property that I still own on Craigslist on Raspberry Street. Single-family house.
I remember that house.
Dilapidated. Yep, a couple of you guys do. So bought it for, so it was $18,000. It was one picture on Craigslist, which is always a red flag.
Oh my goodness.
And it was like one or two sentences. I don't even know. I have it printed at my workshop. $18,000. Called the guy up and made an appointment. He was out of town, whatever. So a couple days. So the day of the showing of our appointment, I called him up to reconfirm, hey, we're all set for 3 o'clock. I'll be there. He goes, all right, I'm not taking any less than $17,500 for it. I'm like, all right. I said, oh, man. I said, all right, well, that sounds good. I'll
Just say $500.
Yeah, we'll see you there. So Rich met me there. We walked through. He gave me the blessing, and that was that. So at that time, I had $25,000 saved up. My wife and I, we saved up, and we were going to build a barn on our property that we could not agree on. We couldn't agree on size, placement, color. I mean, you name it. It just was not meant to be, right? We're a big thing of like, if you don't have peace about it, it's not meant to be, right? That's a big part of how.
Sounds like God had a different plan for that money.
Well, exactly. So we put a lot of weight into that. So anyway, so this happened, and it was just meant to be. So we bought that. I opened up a 0% credit card. It was a Citibank card for 2 years at 0%, and renovated that one. And then Rich, so this was December. In January, Rich goes, go buy another one. I'm like,
How am I supposed to do that?
I'm still learning how to drywall.
and at the time, you have 5 kids.
So exactly. So my youngest was just born in July. So she was, 5 months.
And a
when this
full-time
happened.
job.
And a full-time job.
You got 5 kids, full-time job,
Right.
and you're trying to do this.
And I'm trying
Can't mess up.
Well, not trying, because I knew that this was my shot.
Right.
I had always had that. There's just something about having that bold confidence going into a project that you can just bulldoze through anything.
What's that saying? Fortune favors the bold.
Fortune favors the bold. Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So it sounds like you got kind of lucky in the situation of how you met your mentor. What do you think, he took you under his wing? I'm assuming because you were very interested. I'm sure he's had other people ask him before, but I'm sure your work ethic and how,
And you took action.
You actually
Right.
took action.
Yeah.
Where did you kind of get that work ethic to kind of, where did you kind of find that at? And
500 kids, man.
5
Yeah.
kids. I was going to say
the
that.
motivating factor.
Yeah. And, and I'll go back into our story a little bit, but right out of high school having a baby, we had no money. We were working a lot, but, we had conversations about, do we put cheese on our Whoppers for dinner? You know what I mean? Like, those were real conversations that we had. We did not have money. We were scraping by every month, buying junk cars. We didn't have it easy, but I worked, and I did the best I could. She worked, she did the best she could, and we made it work overall. But this was a real opportunity that Rich saw in me, and because I was the one asking him and pursuing him, I think it brought him alive a little bit, right? And he wanted to teach. He wanted to mentor. He even says, he goes, in the 30, 40 years I've been doing this, I'm the only one that has taken that baton and ran with it. Out of all the people, he says, hundreds of people said, I should do that. We should do that. Can I get you coffee? And take him out. Nobody's ever done it for him.
It seems like a lot of people that have had that experience like to answer those questions. It's almost like, I don't want to say an ego stroke, but people like to share what they've learned. Mm-hmm. I do. I like to do it. My mentors have done it.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you want to start mentoring now too, or you have something like that you want to do, or...
Yeah, I've started coaching, but I've also given free phone calls, and I don't mind going out to coffee.
Yeah.
I've done that with hundreds of people. coffees, lunches, beers, whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm definitely. I love the teaching aspect of it.
And you're a good teacher. That's how I met you. I met you at the apartment association. They had the landlording 101 class,
Yes,
and you taught all the war stories.
Yes. Yeah. Let me get my taser is one of my favorite stories.
Oh, my
man.
goodness.
Yeah.
I wonder if we should hear that story.
Yeah, I kind of want to hear that story. I don't remember this one.
Well, should we save that until we get into the real estate? Do you guys? Just
I
want me to
know.
jump
Let's
into
do it,
Okay,
man.
so-
Talk about it.
So the let me get my taser story is kind of a funny one. So a couple years back, we had a 3-unit building. Sorry, I got to get closer to this thing. So we had a 3-unit building that we were renovating, and there was 2 units when we got it empty. There was a unit in the back that had a, we'll just call an aging stripper, which is not the projection of a solid career path.
Nice.
All right? But she was very pleasant.
Hey.
But she had some money problems, for lack of a better word. So anyway, you just kind of put up with a situation long enough. You've got 2 vacant units. That's the priority. If you have any hope of money coming in, you hold on to that hope for as long as you can. So got the first one renovated, started on the second one. Second one was big, and I kept telling her, so Rosalind, at some point we're going to have to get current here. I mean, she was probably 2 months behind, 3 months behind. I mean, it was brutal. But again, we were in a project phase, so it was kind of an open checkbook at that point. Income wasn't really important.
Yeah.
We were just trying to get the project completed. So that took probably about 3 or 4 months of getting those 2 units up and running, occupied. And then I called her. I said, okay, Rosalind, I'll give you 30 days, and then I need a plan. Like, this has to happen. So, and she had known this from the very beginning that this was going to be the plan. So timing on her part did not work out. So this eviction thing happened. Posted her door, didn't hear from her, went to court. She went to court. Judge ruled in my favor, obviously. The best thing that you can have a judge say that you can hear in court is when the judge goes, okay, present your case. You give the case, and he goes to the tenant and goes, is there anything you'd like to say? And they go, no, that's all right. You want to over-communicate. You want to be super clear and transparent with your operation, so it doesn't come as a surprise. So any of you guys been through an eviction, judge in our favor. I get a letter about 10 days later. I can go back if she's not out. I can file for occupancy. Filed for occupancy. I have not heard from her from the day of that court hearing. So it's been 20 days, right, from the court hearing until the date of occupancy when I get possession back. So,
And that's when the constable comes out, opens the
So-
door, and removes them if they have
Right.
to.
So at like 7 a.m. that day, our constable was at 10 o'clock. 7 a.m. that day, she starts texting me. She owed me like $1,400, $1,500.
Sure.
I have $300. Can you please work with me? Can you please you can't kick me out. And again,
That'd have been nice to know a while ago.
timing on her half was poor, but it just so happened to be the week before Christmas and New Year's.
Oh,
Sorry, kiddo.
man.
But again, this was not a surprise.
Yeah.
So she's texting me. I'm not even acknowledging. Like, you had 20 days to figure this out, right? If not 2 months before.
Yeah.
So constable pulls up, 10 o'clock, and he goes, is she ready? Is she moved out? I said, no. I said, oh, no. He goes, is she ready to move? I said, dude, she's going to answer the door in a red bathrobe with a cup of coffee and a smoke. So sure enough, we go up to the door. What is she wearing? Red bathrobe,
Coffee and a smoke.
Oh, my goodness.
I love
and
it.
She starts mother effing me, mother effing the constable, saying all this stuff, and I mean, I'm just like, are you serious
I didn't know-
Right now? Like,
yeah.
you got authority right here. So she starts mother effing him. She slams the door. He starts mother effing her. Nobody mother
The
effing me.
constable.
Oh, dude, and the two of them, I'm like, holy smokes.
Oh, man.
So he does his thing. He turns around and goes, I'm going to go grab my taser. I'm like, oh.
What did you do?
Well, I'm like, this is my first eviction. So I kind of like, I'm like, so I follow him back, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, hey, listen, I got the day off. Why don't we just give her some time? Like, we can come back this afternoon or whatever. So he comes back, and through the door, he yells. He's like, hey, we're going to come back at noon. If you're not out, I'm bringing a dog catcher with me. I'm going to take your dogs and, all this stuff. I'm like, oh, brother, here we go.
First eviction.
First eviction.
Wow.
So this is pretty colorful at this point. So I leave. He leaves. We meet back at noon. Sure enough, she's gone. He comes in with the dog catcher, clears the whole apartment. Her eviction, she's got a bong on her eviction papers. I mean, just a class
Nice.
act. So
Classic.
he clears the whole thing. I replace the locks. get out, and never to be heard from again.
That was the first eviction. That's a very good first eviction
That's
story.
a
It was
wonderful story.
I kind of figured like, well, it can't get any worse than that. I mean,
Man,
yeah.
So
So she beat the place up a little bit, and we had to go in and we had to fix it. And I also, that's the same story is where you learn that when you show an apartment to a couple, always make sure both people are present. You never fall for that. Oh, my wife's gonna go. Whatever she agrees on, I'll agree on too. Don't ever do that.
Yeah.
Learn the rough way on that one on the back end.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was my eviction story. That nothing has been. Well, I guess I just had a gypsy story too about a month ago, but that's a whole different. I got to journal that one before I'm ready to tell it.
That's
you got that house that you were you posted on Facebook too.
Oh, that wasn't an
past
eviction. She was kind enough to leave, and she did not owe me any money until the cleanup happened with the roaches. Yeah, the roaches were pretty rough too.
Oh, that was the house that had the roaches crawling all over
Yeah,
everything,
I
and
saw
it
that one as
stunk.
well.
I could smell it through the
I
iPhone,
can
man.
still smell it. I can still smell it. Yeah, it was pretty rough.
Man,
So anyway, a little sidetrack there.
that's stuff that's interesting. Like your like your business is straight up buy and hold. I flip pretty much everything. I have a few properties that I've held. It's very interesting to see the other side of the ball game, man.
Yeah. Well, and there's a million different ways to do this real estate.
Yeah.
I mean, every one of us is in a different facet of real estate. And
Yep.
there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that type of collaboration, when people can come together and not have a competitive spirit, but have a collaborative spirit,
Right.
I think that's when good things happen. And I think Erie as a whole, we've got a solid community. I think we're all plugged into. So.
Yeah.
I think that's another question: is what kind of led to your strategy to build and to do the buy and holds instead of the flips, or the what made you choose the strategy you chose?
I mean, it's just Rich. I mean, he owned single-family houses, so I started with single-family houses. I bought 3 of them, and then I kind of realized, well, the money's good on one. Why don't I get a 2-unit? So then I bought a couple 2 units, and I was like, well, crap, I get 3s and 4s. So then I've been on a rip with 4 units. So I've got a whole portfolio of just 4 units.
I like when he said buy the second one, because you're like, how do I even do the first one? It stretches your mind.
So that was interesting because I closed. So I bought the first one in December, bought the second one in February, and how that happened was my attorney lent me money. He gave me $50,000. So I bought the first one with $25,000 in my credit card, right, and my credit card. So the second one, my attorney gave me $50,000 in exchange for lien positions on both those properties. So that allowed me to close, and it allowed me to renovate both properties. So I had a small line of credit, liquidated that. I was basically into both properties for $75,000. He gave me $75,000 in lien positions for both of them on a refinance.
There's a very important lesson to be learned there, and that's private money helps you a lot to buy more properties.
So, right, exactly. And I was fortunate that I had that right off the bat.
Yeah.
I learned that right away.
Yeah.
I never got into the bank. I shouldn't say never because I eventually did, but initially it was all private money. And to this day, I have more private money than I do bank money. But banks play an important part on the back end of it. Banks, and again, from a buy and hold investor, right? Because that should be a known disclaimer. Everything I say is from a buy and hold perspective.
Are you comfortable telling the audience the number of units that you have, or do you want to leave that off the table?
No, I've got 70 right now. I'm closing on 18 next week, and I'm closing on 13 the week next month. It'll be 101.
Man,
That's your goal. 100 was the goal, right?
100 was the goal this year.
Is there what do you
what
do
would-
from there? Yeah. Is there another goal? or?
I remember you said your goal to quit your job was 100 units.
Well, my goal was 100 units. The quit the job thing,
Have the ability
that
to.
will happen at some point.
Yeah.
But I'm a big systems guy, and we can start talking about
Yeah.
this. I've got a great job, and I have the ability to kind of keep all the money in the business. So I don't mind resecuring my system.
Continue to grow it.
Exactly. So employees,
see.
tools, systems. I mean, the easier the foundation I have to walk into, the better it's going to be for me to leave my job.
That's
And
something.
that's my goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a beautiful building on Peach Street, 2966.
I drive by it all the time, and I think of you, buddy.
I cannot. I mean, the way that happened, private money.
Yeah.
The way that happened was just a fascinating experience because so I own 2 of those properties, 2967 Peach and the one over on 26th Street. That's the only 2 instances in my career that I've went off path. And I call those my professional buildings. They're basically 2 rooming houses. Peach Street's 5, 26th Street's 4.
And rooming houses are professionals rent them for a short time.
They don't have to be, and that's where you can get tripped up.
Okay.
Like,
I'm interested.
That's how I target. So all of my ads, travel nurses, GE contract employees, Erie Insurance contract employees, Erie Seawolves, that caliber of tenant. So you have to be really careful with how you screen. I mean,
You want good tenants.
Screening starts with advertising. So
Yeah.
you've got to be able to have a good ad that really self-eliminates the type of tenant that you don't want.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that.
Yeah, because rooming houses traditionally, they're known to be kind of like a fly-by-night riffraff type thing.
Yeah.
And that's not these. These are some of the nicest buildings that,
I see you take real good care of them.
Yeah, but they're awful single-family home investments. That was the thing. When I got that Peach Street, it was an old Gertrude Barber Center group home.
Yeah.
And I'm friends with the main maintenance guy, and he calls me up and goes, "Hey, we're fixing up this property to sell. You should buy it." I'm like, "What the hell do I want to buy it for?" I looked at it and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's beautiful." Off-market deal, right? So I'm like, "Oh man, 115 is probably a decent deal. 125 is probably 150. I could probably see it go for." Got it for 80 grand.
Wow.
80 grand.
The property on Peach Street next to Caldwell?
Yes, south of Caldwell.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, so bought it for 80, borrowed 100 right off the bat from my private lender.
Yeah.
100 grand, interest only, for 12 months, and got it. Replaced all the windows, did a bunch of electric, bunch of plumbing. Ended up, I won't get into the whole story, but ended up getting it, trying to lease it commercially, failing miserably for a couple months. I rented one room to an Indian guy who worked at GE for 4 months, from December all the way through, I guess it was 3 months, all the way through the end of February. Like, oh my gosh, this is not for $400, unfurnished. He had the whole building to himself. Awful. So then I was like,
Great
okay,
for him.
Great for him. So I kind of went all in on the furnished thing, and that niche just kind of presented itself, and I love it. It's,
Hey, if it makes
and I
money.
don't know anybody else doing it, so there's room in the market.
Yeah. Well,
Well, let's bounce back to the systems real quick.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's one of the things that really fascinates me. So you have your full-time job, you have a full family, and you're scaling up to 100 units now.
Yeah.
So I mean there has to be a really strong foundation, as you said. So where did you kind of get these systems from? Did you copy from someone, or
No,
did it just
so-
kind of evolve?
It's kind of evolved. I'm a project manager by trade, so my brain is trained to kind of reverse engineer processes and try to dissect what has to happen before and after every other piece. So to me, it was like, okay, well, I know my own time limitations and physical limitations. What do I need to do? What are my strong points? What are my weak points? And start focusing on those areas of weakness. Now, in the very beginning, you have to do everything yourself, right? Because you don't have time, you got to spend the money. You don't have the money, you got to spend the time type thing, right? So in the beginning, when you're trying to learn all this crap and you're accumulating, you're trying to figure out, like, how do I borrow money? How do I close deals? What's my due diligence? How do I drywall? It is a big learning curve to get into this buy and hold. If you're not buying something that's turnkey, that you're buying something dilapidated that you can add value to and force the equity, right? That's been my bread and butter the whole time. So after you do that 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, you start getting a vibe and a feel and a rhythm for the whole process that just makes everything somewhat predictable. And then it comes to you on balancing time, balancing your family. My wife will tell you that, I was doing this, I'd leave, I have the whole chapter of my life is Lowe's opens at 6 a.m., right?
you should write a book
I
called
know.
Lowe's
Well,
Opens at
I tell you,
6.
because it was a freaking intense chapter of my life, man. Every day, 6 a.m. at Lowe's, right? Go in, bang out a couple hours, go to work, shower at the places, right? Go into the office, take an hour and a half lunch, go bang out something else.
Man, that's the grit that I
After work,
love to hear.
Yeah, after work, go out, bang another couple hours, and I was usually always home by 5:30, 6 o'clock, the latest. Family dinner, have the night, and I'd work a couple hours on Saturday, like till noon or something, 11 o'clock noon. My dad would come over for lunch every Saturday, and then I wouldn't do anything on Sundays.
You feel the most alive when you're out there busting
100%.
butt.
I would 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's, you learn a lot about, okay, when's the depression set in? Why is that setting in?
Yep.
How do I defeat that? What brings me alive in the past? And it's really, it's a great process to go through because you learn a lot about yourself, right? So getting back to systems, though.
Yes.
One of the big things so time management, right? Lowe's opens at 6 a.m. I didn't have time to do any of this crap, but yet I did it.
You figured it out.
So Lowe's open, when I left my house at 6 a.m., I was at work. Whether I was at my W-2 job or I was at real estate investing, I was at work. And then when I came home, I was home. All my properties, 100% of my properties are in the city of Erie. They are between where I work and where I live. I'm not going to Fairview, Mill Creek, Harbor Creek, Northeast. You could almost draw a line and hit every one of my properties. And I did that strategically because I just knew my time limitation and my mental capacity for not wanting to deal with, a lot of BS. I didn't want that feeling of coming home and being like, well, crap, now I got to go do something to my house in Summit.
I'm real big on that systems thing
Yeah.
too, because there's a line between how can I systematize everything that I do, and I need to be creative in certain ways. So like you figure out like that line and then
Right.
try to systematize as much as possible to grow and scale,
Yeah.
which is exactly what you've done.
Right, exactly. And being able to identify those systems, systems eliminate problems, right? You got a problem that comes up, you got a system for it, right? But in the very beginning, when you've never done this before, everything's a problem.
You got to figure it out.
Yeah, you got to figure it out. But once you figure it out, you can safely go back to that. Okay, I dealt with this. I know how to deal with it. Now I can move on.
Yeah.
It eliminates that mental capacity, right? So, go ahead.
Oh, are you big on like taking notes? I take so many notes, and I have so many
See that.
binders on everything that I'm doing. Just from different areas of my life. Is that something you were kind of doing as you came up to kind of not study your properties, just be like, hey, if this happens again, here's how I'm going to do it?
No, not necessarily. When I'm at a conference or a seminar, or if I'm reading a book or something, I'll take some notes. But I'm not. Tell you what, I'm not a big goal setter. I'm not a big note taker. I'm not this big strategist. I just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Action taker.
Action taker.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you have to continue to surround yourself by good people that are action takers and problem solvers and the go-getters of your industry. And I also firmly believe too that you have to not be afraid to ask for what you want, right? If people know what you want, they're more inclined to help you get what you want.
There is actually that applies directly. I remember somebody sent me a property and I was not interested in it because I had to buy it at rock bottom or to flip it for a profit. I'm like, but I know a guy who's interested in buying that, and I gave him your number. I don't know if they ever actually called you, but I was like, dude, this person would be like the one to buy this place because it was a 3-unit. And I'm like, he's looking for 3-4 units.
Yeah.
And you let people know about it. So naturally, in the back of my mind,
Yes.
you have to ask for it.
So, and I'll fast forward a little bit, but 2020 has been the best year for me. I over doubled my whole portfolio. And I remember like at the end of March, once the whole COVID thing went a little crazy, I was like, you know what, dude? I feel like now's the time to really push. So I contacted a ton of real estate agents, a ton of investors, a bunch of hard money lending people. I just really went in on my network, and boy, I blew out my whole portfolio pretty quick.
So that's interesting to talk about too, because you want to grow, and I'm like, whoa, I don't know if I want any more properties because of this nationwide moratorium on evictions. I guess we could talk about that later if you want to, but It's like, I don't know if I want to buy anymore, but here you are.
Yeah.
Scaling up.
There's systems that handle all that crap.
Right.
I did some creative things. I got some people out. Some people left on their own.
Yeah.
Some people abandoned a property conveniently, and there's just angles for everything.
Exactly.
That you get into against systems. But kind of going back on the systems thing again, Stonehouse Management, we can kind of jump right into that.
Mm-hmm.
So January of 2018, we started Stonehouse Management Company with my partner, Dan Continenza. And he had, I'm going to say, about 40 to 50 units at the time. A lot of it was student rentals, but he had that beautiful 18-unit property, the Stonehouse Mansion on West 6th Street that he still owns today. So he was a banker down in Meadville, and I was up here trying to grow my portfolio. We both had a similar need of like some structure and some systems. We both wanted some really good property management software to use, and we had this idea of like, okay, let's go in and do this together. So, we're 50-50 partners, but we really don't overlap. Like, there's really very, very little overlap in our business, which is, I think, healthy for a partnership. He does his thing, I do my thing. We don't own any properties together. We just own Stonehouse Management Company, and that allowed us to get Appfolio property management software. We each got a truck out of it. We've got a great phone system. We've got a website out of it. So we really leveraged it fully right off the bat.
Something I learned from you about systems was Cozy, and I now use Cozy. It's a free app.
It's fantastic.
Appfolio is bigger for your portfolio.
Right.
I got a smaller one.
Perfect.
Like Cozy works just good.
Yep. We actually still use Cozy on 2 of our properties too for a strategic thing.
Gotcha.
It sounds like you're really big on reinvesting it back into your business. How much has that really helped you grow just at the rapid pace that you've managed to?
So there's 2 phases to renovating properties, right? And this is where the reinvestment comes in. You have a project phase where it's kind of like that open checkbook, like the goal, and you'll learn too by doing this that the time between acquisition and rented is the most critical time that you have. It's worth throwing all the money in the world at a property to get it done and occupied as quick as possible. Trying to cut corners, trying to save a couple bucks, trying to just get it done. It's worth throwing the extra money into it. So, but I will say, once it's occupied, now you've got a stabilized product. You have a stabilized building, and that building should stay and support itself, continuously, right? But you have a project phase and you have that stable phase. Now, what's nice and what just coincidentally what happened to me is I always had a project house at the same time. So once I got my first one stabilized, all that money, all that checkbook project money went into the second house.
Move into the next one.
And then once that got stabilized, I had another project house. Now, every time something happened in the back that I didn't have a lot of money saved up, like hot water tank went out or something I had to fix, I had to replace a stove or a couple $100 process, I always had this project money so I can kind of rob Peter to pay Paul type thing.
Yeah.
But I allowed all the money in my portfolio's ecosystem to kind of support itself. And we have not put one dime of our own money into it except for that $25,000 at the very beginning. So,
yeah, because that was going to be my next question. And now you talked about lines of credit. I mean, how many lines of credit do you have? Do you just have?
So
a
I
few,
actually
or?
credit my partner Dan Continenza, who was working at KeyBank at the time, for kind of introducing me to that thought process.
He works at a bank.
He did. Well, he did. Yeah, he doesn't now, but he did at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And he got me, got me 3 lines of credit at KeyBank. And then he was like, dude, just get these lines of credit. Like, you're already leveraging. Just get these lines of credit. It's the same process. So by the time I had my 4th property, I had 2 lines of credit. By the time I had my 8th property, I had like 4 or 5 lines of credit. And now I've got about $150,000 in lines of credit at any given time that I can liquidate and use. Now, a lot of it's leveraged right now. It's not free and clear right now.
Yep.
But, it ebbs and flows.
Same here. I
Yeah.
mean, I kept going to Northwest, taking in and putting back because I kept buying and selling houses.
Yep,
Like I took a
exactly.
chunk of money out, bought one, put it back,
Yeah.
and then they're like, "We'll just give you a line of credit." I'm like, "That's great. I'll take it."
Well, that BRR process is a real thing. And that's, I've done that.
Do you want to explain to the audience what a BRR is?
So it's buy, renovate,
Re-
rent,
refi,
I don't
repeat.
know, whatever. But it's basically buy it,
Close
renovate
enough.
it, cash out, refinance, pay everything.
And rent it
off.
out and repeat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done that dozens of times. And
Yeah.
it really is. I mean, it's just copy, paste, stay in your lane.
Systems.
I always say that. Stay in your lane. Those 2 professional rooming houses are the only thing that I've veered from. Everything else has been the same exact thing. The less sexy your business is, the better the business is.
Oddly, that's true.
Yeah. I mean, you create a predictability that gives you the mental capacity to focus on the next opportunity. Systems, right?
Oh, yeah.
Systems. I can go buy something. I know exactly how I'm going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to do it. Like, I don't know how it's going to work out, but in the back of my head, I'm like, there is a predictable pattern of the timeline of how this is going to work.
I am just like you, but every deal I do is like completely different than the other. So like in my mind works just like yours. It's systems. I want to be able to do the same thing, rinse and repeat. But like right now, because I'm buying and selling like really creative ways, it's like everything is a lot different, but I always regress like you, just try to systematize it down, do the same thing over and over.
Right.
So,
Yeah, man.
yeah.
So, but Stonehouse has been pretty much paramount to a lot of my success. I mean, I've been able to, that Appfolio software takes a lot of the back end work out of lease management, tenant management, online rent collections, delinquency notifications, reporting. I mean, we balance bank accounts through there. I mean, it's pretty.
I was going to ask you about the bank account thing. Does it pay automatically if you have a lender or a bank to pay? Does it automatically pay out?
So No, it doesn't. So it's basically just for you can bill pay through it because you
Right.
register your bank accounts. You can't do an auto pay.
Gotcha. Because that would be convenient. But how do you manage
And
that?
you know
Do you
what?
pay your bills?
Maybe it does, but I mean,
Yeah.
I'm in there multiple times a day, and I'm pretty upbeat. Maybe it does. I don't think it does though. So I get all my bills in the mail. I'm not an email guy. I want to hold that bill, and I don't throw it away until it's paid, scanned, and done. Right. So I'm all cloud based too, for that matter, which is a whole nother system that we can talk about.
When did you guys start Stonehouse?
January 2018.
Okay.
So almost 3 years, 2.5 years.
And how many units did you have at that time?
Like I said, he had 40-ish, and I had maybe 25 at the time, 20, 25, something at the time.
Now that's something interesting to talk about because most of the time I hear it's best to stay away from partnerships, and that's what I've practiced is not to partner with people on things unless it's short term.
Yeah.
You have a partner. Is he still a partner in Stonehouse?
Oh, yeah.
So
But again, we don't own property together.
you own the management
We own
company.
the management company together. That's very important to distinguish.
You want to talk about that?
Well, I think I said it before, where he has his portfolio.
Okay.
I have my portfolio.
Yeah.
He was living in Meadville. I don't know why. I mean, I needed the revenue from his portfolio to help establish a folio. I wanted to get a
Gotcha,
truck payment.
yeah.
I was managing that Stonehouse building, so I could have only done that if we owned the management company together, or I was a W-2 employee from him. So I was able to do that legally, and there was a lot of. I mean, it was just
Right.
really convenient
Yeah.
for me to go down that path.
Makes
I mean,
sense.
maybe I could have pushed and got 51%, but again, I'm such a simple guy too that I didn't really want to overcomplicate it. Now, I would strongly advise people not to get into partnerships on owning buildings, physical assets. Stonehouse is not a physical asset. It's
Yeah.
a website, and they own a leveraged truck and a dehumidifier, and I mean, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing of ownership. There's no assets
Right.
to it.
Yeah, that can start to get dicey.
Now you said that you, well, I think you said it before, but you have contractors who are working for you now. Is that another company that you're kind of working on starting?
So I just started a construction company about a month and a half ago, which kind of the opportunity kind of presented itself, and that's worked out very well. We've serviced a bunch of our friends. We've done a lot of work together, and we added a full-time carpenter, and I have another part-time maintenance girl who started with us, Lauren. I don't know if you guys know Lauren, but and then we're hiring a full-time property manager next week. So super excited about that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So again, systems, right? Put the right people in place, and you can grow your business.
Was the objective of starting the construction company to help out your rental portfolio? Was that the intent?
I think it was a logical byproduct of
Yeah.
it.
Because you're doing so much rehab.
Exactly. And I just, I had an opportunity to help a family member, and that's how it all kind of worked out. And it's
Funny how that works.
It's been great. So, yeah. It's been good.
Did we have more questions for Justin, or is that?
Well, I mean, we're progressing.
Yeah.
So I mean, what's kind of the future look like for you? I mean,
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's the
what's
next
in
question.
your mind here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, so I hit my 100 goal. I mean, I'm right around the corner from hitting the 100 goal. Once that happens, it's like, what's the next shiny object? And like I said before, if all the right people are telling you that you're doing the right thing, just keep doing it.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to keep acquiring. I'm going to keep focusing on my relationships. Keep, reinvesting my money back to what you were asking me. Just keep putting money into the machine, and establishing those foundations. I want to get an office in Peachtree. I want to establish maybe one more employee, maybe like a part-time admin person. I've got my sister-in-law who's doing some really great stuff for us too, and then establish an office at Peachtree, and then I can just kind of slowly fade over to Peachtree. I think that's ultimately the next goal. I don't know what it's going to take to get there, because there's an opportunity cost about going to that office every day. It is the golden handcuffs. It's very cushiony. It's a great opportunity for me, but I do know that going to the office every day prevents me from taking opportunities on a Tuesday afternoon, or a Thursday morning, to go to Cleveland, to go out to lunch, to go out to dinner, to go do.
And that's
all
why we
these
get in the
things.
business is the freedom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I mean, I kind of started this with a lot of responsibilities that I have to make sure I'm accounting for in every one of my decisions. So yeah, it's my duty and obligation to make sure that my family is secure, and that's the priority.
Yeah, I always hear you say this. Got 5 kids. Can't mess up.
Can't mess up. I don't say it very eloquently. It's a little bit more colorful there.
Well, good stuff, man. I don't know. I think that's good. Unless we had more that we want to talk about.
One thing we touched on a little bit was private money, and it sounds like that was kind of a big part in your growth. What tips would you give to people? I feel like a lot of people don't jump in because of financials. So
relationships.
All relationships.
Yep.
You have to be able to sell yourself as a product, right? You have to be able to go tonight thinking, why would anybody invest in me?
Yeah.
What do I bring to the table, right? I'm a solid local operator. I've got my management company. I've got my track record. I have excellent references in both legal, financial, and the real estate department. I've got my coaching program on the board of the apartment association. Like, that's an easy sell to somebody who's willing to invest in real estate on the private market.
Told you if I had to invest in somebody, it would definitely be you, because I'd see the track record. People invest in you.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
So I posted last week a text that I got from one of my investors. Says, because I invited him, hey, I'm wrapped up with this project that you invested in. Why don't you come down and check it out? I'm really happy about it.
Yeah.
And we couldn't do it, whatever. He goes, hey, honestly, I don't need to look at it. I'm just so confident in what you're doing. Just let me know when the next deal comes along. That brings you alive as an investor. That's the bread and butter of what I do.
That's awesome.
I just started doing that. I started posting on my Facebook some of the deals that I've been doing, and people are like, yeah, I'll invest. And
So, and interesting.
It's not complicated.
I'm kind of a late Facebook bloomer, right? Like, I just started Facebook 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Like, I'm pretty new to the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the reason is because, my wife and I, we know a lot of people that it was not good for. We know some failed relationships, some failed marriages. Like, it was one of those things that was like, dude, it was bad. It was bad. So, but when I started it on a different perspective of like, okay, why don't I, instead of trying to like plug into everybody else, why don't I just come at it as, this is who we are, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, this is my family, this is the image, this is the product, this is who I am to all those important people, right? And you learn real quick, it's real easy to unfollow all the bad people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you can focus on, just what is it, what are you trying to accomplish, right? You can kind of have a lot of fun with it. And I will say too that, speaking of social media, some of the new guys that I talk to, especially in that local real estate group, that'll call me or they'll DM me, and I'll have these phone calls with them. I'll coach them and I'll tell them about, whatever, some angles and some opportunities and just some thought process stuff. And the next day they'll go in and they'll post some ridiculous thing on their social media, and I'll call them out and be like, dude, you can't be flipping
keep it together, man.
You can't be, talking smack. And like, why would again, same conversation. Why would anybody want to invest in that, dude? Write your own story. You've got to be your best customer, and you've got to be able to sell yourself and give people the confidence of who they're investing in. And the more people see you online, in person, hear from you, text from you, the more confidence they have in how they know you, and that's what's going to create a good relationship, right? If they don't know who you are, if you're not on social media, if you're not making the phone calls, if you're not attending the events, if you don't make a face.
Half of success is showing up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But people have to know who you are. If they don't know who you are, why would they invest with you?
Yeah.
So you have to write your own story for sure.
Yeah, I've kind of taken like an opposite approach with that. Not like totally opposite, but my big thing was after I graduated college, I wanted to figure out who I was, like this is the kind of person who I want to be. This is the kind of life that I want to live. This is what I want to invest in. This is what I want to do with my career and, with my future. So I kind of took a year away from social media, and I'm slowly start going back to it. But it's like now I know exactly who I am, exactly what I want to invest in, exactly what my business is like, and what I'm doing that I can put my best foot forward and, kind of sprint at it. So.
Yeah. And you know what? It sounds very similar to me. Like, I skipped all that initial BS, and I went into it with, I was already an investor. I already knew what I was doing. This is how I'm going to portray myself on social media. In a word, I contribute a significant part of my success to social media, for sure.
Oh, yeah. So I think to kind of wrap it up, I mean, if Dom, do you have any other? You got
one more on here that
I'm out of stuff.
I think this is a good one. This was actually yours, and I think it's a very good one.
All right.
What was your biggest failure that you really learned from?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Fail forward, as they say.
Yeah, I was kind of up against the gun on something, and I had to refinance, and I didn't do enough due diligence on a private lender, and I lost a couple bucks on that one. So I would say my biggest failure, and that was about 2 years ago, would be due diligence, being confident in your long-term lending partners, being confident in your banking partners. That would probably be it, because that hurt a little bit.
Hey,
But,
fail forward.
You live and you learn, and
Yep.
you kind of you put those systems in place to, okay, you're never going to do that again, and trust attorneys and trust the right people.
Yeah.
All right, so bouncing back though, so if you were our age, you're in your early 20s, just kind of getting into it, what kind of advice do you have for that newbie investor, that young investor, who they have a great opportunity to do something huge? What's kind of your advice to them?
Find a why. I think is probably the biggest thing. Find a why and take action. Right? My why is to leave my job so I can get my boy in travel ice hockey. Right? I know he's got the talent, but I don't.
Did you say get him in trouble at ice hockey?
Yes.
I love it.
Yes, like me.
Did you play ice hockey?
I did, yeah. Give him in travel ice hockey. Because I don't want to put him in hockey in like that level of competitiveness now, because I wouldn't be able to go to every game. I wouldn't be able to go away on the weekends, and I don't want to be the dad that says, "All right, bud, best of luck this weekend. See you on Monday." That's just not the level of parenting that I want for my relationship with my son. So that's a huge why. Leaving my job so I can be on my own terms, and just really digging my teeth into real estate. That's my why. So I would say for all you new guys, find out what that why is. I don't know how you determine that, but something's got to get you up in the morning and willing to be at Lowe's at 6 a.m. and arrive at work with freaking drywall dust all over your face and not give two shits about what everybody else says in your office.
I notice when I've got a lot to do that day, and I know it attains to my why, I get right out of bed.
Right.
I get right out of bed.
Yeah. So I think that's the big thing, and don't be afraid to take action. Right? I mean, just take action. The military's got a famous saying that's like, the right decision, a good decision today is better than a right decision a week from now. Right? Just take action, move forward, keep kicking the can down the street. Right? Because every little bit that you do, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Like, you look back and you're like, I can't believe I just did that in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
And you learn in your relationships too about like where do you get your confidence, your strength from, right? And you should not get it from other people, right? Don't put that trust and that fulfillment in the responsibility of other people. You can have that in yourself, and you can have that through your own work ethic, your own accomplishments, right? You're going through and blowing out your own mind of what you're capable of. That, when you look back, when you sit there on Sunday morning, Sunday night, whatever, at the end of the week and go, I cannot believe what I just did this week. Like, that gives you so much self-fulfillment and pride.
Absolutely, man.
I mean, it gives you purpose. It's a life worth living, right?
Yep.
That's what defeats depression. That's what gives you that positive mental attitude. That's what gives you the confidence to go out, tell your story confidently, because you know that, like, nobody's going to do what I just did. Nobody in their right mind would have stuck their hand in that freaking sink at the Roach House and unclogged that drain.
Yeah.
But somebody had to do it. And you know what? All my guys were there, and they all saw me do it, and I did not blink an eye.
You're gonna look.
That's the leadership that you have to have.
Yeah.
Right? You've got to be able to lead that ship, push that project forward, and just get it done.
You're going to look
Don't
back on
hesitate.
life and regret the things that you didn't do more than the things that you did do, and you stuck your hand in that sink.
Yeah. But if I didn't, it probably still would be clogged. I'd be asking a cleaner or a plumber or somebody to do it.
Yeah. I
Just-
love it.
Just get it done. So don't be afraid to work hard. I tell my kids all the time, don't be afraid of hard work, right? And always ask for what you want. Don't ever be afraid to ask for what you want. So
Love
kudos
it.
Good note to end
Love
on.
it. Yeah, that's
Excellent.
perfect to end on.
That'll be a good conclusion. So thanks for watching, guys. Dom, you have any
Yeah,
final
but
notes?
if you want to give your where they can reach you and all
so,
that.
Yeah, so Facebook's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. You can go on Instant Messenger, just shoot me a message. You can go on our website, Stonehouse Management, www.stonehouse.management. Right on the lease page, we have our full bios, all of our contact information there. I do a coaching too, If you want to book me hourly, or if you want to book me for a month too, I do package deals like that too. So be happy to help. And every once in a while, I'll throw out a message on the real estate group too about free half-hour phone sessions.
I see those.
That I usually do at Wegmans. And,
Nice.
Sometimes I forget my mask, and I'm 45 minutes into it, and I'm wondering if everybody's looking at me because I'm on the phone. Then I realize, shit, I don't have my mask on. I squirrel out to the parking lot and grab my mask. So
Nice.
but I'm happy to help. So I appreciate
Excellent.
you guys having me. This is
Oh,
this
yeah.
has been
Thanks
Yeah.
for coming on. Love having
Yeah,
you.
definitely.